My name is Len. I'm a member of the ODG Towers and Belfries Committee, and I'm also steeplekeeper at my own tower, where I have to maintain the bells in good working order. We're going to talk about problems associated with bells and bell frames, but first of all we'll look at the various parts of the bell. The bell is hanging from a headstock. This can be either wood, as in this case, steel or cast iron. The headstock is mounted on axles called gudgeons, which go into the bearings. These can either be plain bearings or ball bearings. To stop the bell from overturning when we're ringing it full circle, we have a stay, and below a slider. This is the mechanism that allows us to stand the bell in the upright position. To make the bell move, we have a wheel, which is simply a wooden wheel that is jointed together, very like a wheel of an old-fashioned horse and cart. The frame in this case is wood. It could be steel or cast iron or a combination of both. Wooden frames have their own issues, which we'll talk about in just a moment. The job of the steeplekeeper basically is to make sure that things that should be tight are kept tight, and things that should move can move with minimum friction. And to ensure that we get things tight, we need to look at the various bits of the bell. The wheel is held to the headstock by a single bolt through the two centre spokes. And it is important that this is kept tight, otherwise, as you can see, it can wobble about. Similarly, the stay needs to be held tight to the headstock by the two bolts that hold the headstock. And these can be simply tightened up and kept tight. A simple check from time to time will tell you if it needs doing. The gudgeons in this case are held onto the headstock by two U-bolts. And the U-bolts need to be checked from time to make sure they're tight. And tightening them up is a simple matter of following a pattern. Tighten one, and then diagonally, tighten the next one, and then diagonally. Tightening about a quarter of a turn at a time. Don't over-tighten, don't tighten one bolt up altogether, otherwise you'll distort things out of shape. Similarly, the bell is held to the headstock by straps that have nuts on the top, and again they need to be tightened, but in tightening them be very, very careful not to pull the bell out of the vertical position by again tightening a quarter of a turn at a time on the first bolt diagonally, third bolt diagonally. The clapper goes straight through the headstock into the bell, and checking that for tightness is also necessary, otherwise the clapper will move within the bell, which is undesirable. We've now turned the bell round so you can see in more detail the wheel and the rope. You can't see the pulley very well, which is hidden down, but that is an important part of the whole mechanism. The wheel, as I said, needs to be kept tight, and the rope, which goes through the garter hole in the wheel, is tied to the two double spokes in the middle. The wheel itself is a very simple construction, and I believe that it is best to tie the rope to the far spoke first before wrapping it around the other spoke to form the loop to hold the rope in place. The reason being, the tension from the rope then pulls the spoke against the solid part of the center of the wheel. If you tie it to the other side, you could pull it apart rather than pull it together. Check the garter hole frequently to make sure that there are no rough bits and which could wear the rope. The rope goes down through the pulley should rotate freely. If it has a means of lubricating it, only lubricate it very sparingly. Most modern pulleys now have sealed for life bearings and don't need lubrication. Most modern bell fittings in general have sealed for life bearings on which the bell rotates, and they don't need lubricating. This bell has plain bearings which need frequent lubrication with a light oil. Don't use a heavy grease, it's not very good. It doesn't flow into the bearing very well and lubricate it very well. A light oil is better, but you will then have to mop up the spillage because it will leak through the bearing and run down the side of the frame. The frame itself, as you can see, has various bolts holding it down, and they need to be checked from time to time because this is a wooden frame, and a wooden frame will swell and shrink with the weather. If you have a metal frame, either cast iron or steel, you don't have that problem, but you have a lot more joints that might need the bolts tightening.